The architecture of the human mind is filled with invisible walls, erected not from stone but from thought, experience, and repetition. These walls are called limiting beliefs, and though intangible, they are as confining as iron bars. They're the quiet phrases whispered over and over. I am not enough. I will never succeed. This is just the way I am. People like me don't reach that level. My life is already decided. At first, they form as conclusions drawn from early experiences, inherited from parents, culture, or circumstance. Over time, they harden into mental structures that dictate perception. Instead of seeing reality as it is, one sees it filtered through the belief. Like a pair of tinted glasses, the world takes on the color of the conviction. Limiting beliefs do not merely sit dormant. They become self-reinforcing loops. A child told repeatedly that they are not smart internalizes the phrase until it echoes in their own thoughts. When challenges arise, the child avoids them, convinced of inevitable failure. The avoidance prevents growth. The lack of growth confirms the belief, and the cycle tightens. This recursive loop is the essence of a limiting belief. Not simply an idea, but an entire ecosystem of thought, emotion, and action that keeps a person bound. Neuroscience reveals the mechanics of this trap. Repeated thoughts carve pathways in the brain, strengthening connections between neurons. The more often a thought is repeated, the easier it becomes to think it again. The brain, designed to conserve energy, favors familiar circuits. Thus, the limiting belief becomes not only a psychological prison, but a neurological habit. Yet this entire edifice rests upon assumptions of linearity. The belief says, because this has always been true in the past, it will remain true in the future. It assumes the self is fixed, the trajectory predictable, the possibilities limited to the known. This is classical thinking, deterministic, linear, and bound to cause and effect. It is the worldview that sees the universe as a machine, every outcome the inevitable result of prior conditions. In this framework, freedom is an illusion, and the past stretches forward like a shadow that cannot be outrun. But the discoveries of quantum physics crack open this mechanistic certainty. At the subatomic level, matter is not solid and determined, but probabilistic, wave-like, existing in multiple states until observed. The electron is not a fixed point, but a cloud of possibilities, collapsing into actuality only through interaction. The quantum field, the invisible ocean from which particles emerge, is not static but alive with infinite potential. This principle suggests that reality is not a single, linear line, but a spectrum of possibilities waiting to be chosen. The implications for the human mind are profound. If the very foundation of matter operates through possibility and collapse, then perhaps consciousness, too, is capable of shaping reality by the beliefs it holds, the observations it makes, the focus it directs. Quantum thinking is the application of this paradigm to the inner world. It is the recognition that thoughts are not passive reflections, but active measurements. Every belief is like an observation collapsing probability into actuality. To hold a limiting belief is to collapse into a narrow possibility, to reinforce it with observation until it appears inescapable. But to expand belief is to allow for new collapses, to bring into being outcomes that were always possible but never observed. In this sense, limiting beliefs are not truths, but collapsed possibilities, mistaken for reality. They can be dissolved not by force, but by shifting observation. Consider the person who believes, I am unlucky in love. Their history may seem to confirm it. Failed relationships, heartbreak, rejection. The linear mind concludes, because this has been, so it shall always be. Yet in truth, each event was not destiny, but one collapsed version of possibility. By focusing only on those outcomes, the person ignores other probabilities that could emerge. The belief itself becomes the observer, collapsing reality into experiences that confirm unluckiness. They act with hesitation, interpret neutral events negatively, and select partners aligned with the belief. The loop tightens. But quantum thinking interrupts the loop. It asks, what if the opposite is also possible? What if unluckiness is not destiny, but a probability I no longer need to measure? By directing attention toward the version of the self who experiences love with ease, by imagining it, feeling it, aligning with it emotionally, the person collapses new probabilities. Opportunities once invisible appear, behaviors shift subtly, and reality begins to reorganize. This is not wishful thinking, but a fundamental shift in perception. The mind, shaped by neural plasticity, rewires itself to reflect new beliefs. The body, governed by hormones and emotions, responds to new expectations. The field of life itself resonates with new energy. Thus, freedom from limiting beliefs comes not from fighting them, but from stepping outside the linear paradigm that sustains them. The transition from linear to quantum thinking is challenging because the human mind craves certainty. Certainty provides stability. To believe that the past dictates the future gives comfort, even if that future is bleak, because at least it is predictable. Uncertainty, by contrast, feels dangerous. But uncertainty is also possibility. The quantum field is uncertain precisely because it holds all outcomes. To embrace quantum thinking is to embrace the discomfort of uncertainty in exchange for the freedom of infinite potential. Every limiting belief can be seen as a refusal to tolerate uncertainty. I can't succeed means I refuse to risk finding out. I'm not worthy means I cannot bear the uncertainty of testing my worth. Quantum thinking requires courage because it demands stepping into the unmeasured, where the outcome is unknown. But it is only in the unknown that transformation occurs. The known is merely repetition. This perspective reshapes identity itself. The linear self says, I am the sum of my history. The quantum self says, I am a field of probabilities, any of which can be embodied now. Identity becomes fluid, emergent, unfixed. The person who has always been timid contains within them the possibility of boldness. The one who has always failed contains the possibility of success. These possibilities are not fantasies. They exist as real potential states, waiting to be observed into being. To break free from limiting beliefs is to claim this fluidity, to refuse to let past collapses define future states. Thus, the first step of liberation is awareness. To notice the belief not as truth, but as measurement. To see that the phrase I can is not a law of physics, but a collapse of possibility. Awareness alone loosens the grip, for what is observed can no longer operate unconsciously. The second step is expansion, to imagine alternatives, to allow the mind to dwell in probabilities beyond the linear script. The third step is embodiment, to act as though the new possibility is real, aligning behavior with the chosen probability. In this triad, awareness, expansion, embodiment, the walls of limiting beliefs crumble and the horizon of possibility expands. The habit of linear thought does not merely restrict individuals. It shapes entire cultures. Education systems emphasize straight lines. Learn lesson, take test, move forward. Careers are mapped as ladders. Entry level, middle management, senior leadership. Progress is measured as accumulation. More wealth, more possessions, more status. The rhythm of society is governed by clocks and calendars, slicing time into predictable segments. While these structures provide order, they also foster rigidity. They teach people to expect life to unfold sequentially, rationally, predictably. When life inevitably defies this pattern, when sudden illness strikes, when love appears unexpectedly, when inspiration erupts from nowhere, people are left disoriented, even fearful. Quantum thinking restores balance by reminding us that nonlinearity is not an exception, but the rule. Growth often comes not in steady increments, but in sudden leaps. Healing may occur not through years of therapy, but in a single revelation. Creativity does not trickle, but cascades in bursts of insight. History itself advances not smoothly, but in revolutions, breakthroughs, collapses, and renaissances. To cling to linear thought in such a world is to fight against reality itself. To embrace quantum thinking is to align with reality's deeper pattern, discontinuous, fractal, emergent. This shift has profound implications for how we view the self. Linear thought insists on continuity. The person you were yesterday is essentially the same as today. Quantum thinking accepts discontinuity. Transformation can be instantaneous. Just as a particle can jump energy states without passing through intermediate levels, a person can shift identity without traversing every step. The addict can become sober in a moment of awakening. The fearful can become courageous in a single act of defiance. The defeated can rise victorious in an instant of clarity. These shifts defy linear explanation, but are consistent with quantum principles of leap and collapse. Breaking free from limiting beliefs requires adopting this quantum readiness for discontinuity. Instead of assuming change must be slow, gradual, and predictable, the quantum thinker accepts that change can be sudden, radical, and total. This openness itself accelerates transformation, for the mind no longer resists leaps. It expects them, invites them, and therefore allows them. Another dimension of quantum thinking is the recognition of entanglement. In physics, entangled particles remain connected across distance, influencing each other instantly. In human life, entanglement manifests as synchronicity, meaningful coincidence, the mysterious alignment of events. Linear thought dismisses these as chance, but quantum thinking sees them as evidence of deeper interconnection. To hold a belief is not only to shape one's own life, but to resonate with others. A person who believes in abundance attracts others who do the same, forming networks of opportunity. A culture that believes in scarcity organizes itself into competition and conflict. Thus, limiting beliefs are not private prisons, but collective constructs, shaping societies as much as individuals. Breaking them requires collective quantum thinking. Communities must learn to imagine possibilities beyond scarcity, conflict, and determinism. History shows this capacity. Societies once bound by the belief that disease was punishment from the gods broke free into the belief that disease could be understood and cured. Economies once bound by the belief that energy was limited to wood and coal broke free into new sources. These shifts were not linear extensions of the past, but radical leaps. They demonstrate the power of collective quantum thinking to reshape civilization. On the personal level, practicing quantum thinking is a discipline. It begins with mindfulness, observing thoughts, noticing when limiting beliefs arise. Instead of accepting them as truth, one asks, is this the only possibility? What if the opposite were true? This questioning weakens the rigidity of linear thought. Next comes visualization. Not fantasy, but rehearsing alternative probabilities with emotional intensity. The brain responds to imagined experiences almost as strongly as to real ones, rewiring itself accordingly. Finally comes action, behaving in alignment with the new belief, even if the evidence is not yet visible. These steps create a feedback loop that reinforces the expanded belief until it becomes the new default. The journey is not without resistance. The linear mind will insist on proof, demand certainty, cling to the comfort of repetition. Fear will arise, for to step into possibility is to relinquish control. Yet the reward is immense. To live quantumly is to live freely, unshackled from the past, open to the future, alive to the present. It is to experience life not as a prison of inevitability, but as a dance of probabilities. Ultimately, breaking free from limiting beliefs with quantum thinking is not simply about personal success. It is about aligning human consciousness with the deeper reality of existence. The universe itself is not linear, not deterministic, not confined. It is expansive, fluid, alive with potential. To think otherwise is to live in illusion. To think quantumly is to harmonize with truth. In this harmony, the human being rediscovers their power, not the power of domination or control, but the power of creation, perception, and transformation. Thus, the walls of limiting belief fall. The habit of linear thought dissolves. The horizon widens into infinity, and the self, once confined to a narrow script, awakens to its true nature, not a fixed point on a line, but a field of infinite becoming.